15 kilometers south of Jerusalem, a mountain is lying to you. It has no geological reason to exist. Every gram of it was carried up the slope by human hands. Inside it, a 7-story palace, buried on purpose. On its hillside, a royal coffin, smashed into hundreds of pieces, and a body that has never been found. The man who built this started with a bankrupt kingdom, enemies on every border, and a debt to Rome. 20 years later, by some accounts, only Caesar Augustus was richer than him. He controlled the most expensive substance on earth, and the only place it grew. He faced Cleopatra at the height of her power, and outlasted her. He executed the woman he loved, then called her name through empty corridors for years. His own people tried to erase him. The mountain refused. His name was Herod. King Herod, the man who inherited a broken kingdom and built the richest empire in the ancient world. And the way he did it explains how money really works, even now. You will never see Herod's balsam groves. They're gone, vanished from the earth centuries ago. But the financial system you live inside today still runs on the blueprint he perfected. Control the thing everyone needs, own the route it travels, and charge for access. Think about your own money for a moment. Your paycheck arrives through a payment network you didn't choose. Your rent or your mortgage flows through institutions that existed before you were born. Your debt, and according to Federal Reserve Bank of New York data, American households were carrying roughly $18 trillion of it heading into 2026. Moves through pipes designed by people whose names you will never know. And it is exactly why this story matters. Because 2,000 years before container ports and payment rails, one man, an outsider with no bloodline, no inheritance, and no natural allies, worked out the formula. He proved that the most durable wealth on earth doesn't come from holding gold. It comes from being the gate. But that raises two questions. First, how exactly do you turn a bankrupt kingdom into a fortune that rivals an emperor's without conquering anyone? And second, what does his formula actually say about your own income, your own security, your own personal finances in 2026? Both answers are coming, and the first one begins in the strangest place in financial history. Not in a treasury, not in a palace, but in the desert with a boy who belonged nowhere. The archaeology begins here. It was around 73 BCE in Idumea, a dry, hard stretch of land south of Judea, wedged between the Judean hills and the caravan kingdoms of Arabia. A boy was born there with no claim to anything, no throne, no fortune, not even a people that fully accepted him. His father, Antipater, came from Idumean stock, a people conquered and converted to Judaism only 2 generations earlier. His mother, Cyprus, was a Nabatean princess from Petra, the city carved into rose-red rock in what is today Jordan. To the religious establishment in Jerusalem, this boy was impure, a half-Jew at best, the son of a converted people who could never fully belong. To the Romans, he was a useful local in an unstable region. To the Arabs, he was a man with connections in every direction and roots in none. Most people know that outsiders are vulnerable. What they don't know is that in economic history, outsiders are also the ones who build financial systems. Because a man who cannot rely on bloodline or tribe learns very quickly to rely on something else. On infrastructure, on trade routes, on revenue that keeps flowing whether anyone loves you or not. The records, preserved mainly by the historian Flavius Josephus, show where Herod learned that lesson. He learned it by watching his father close a single transaction. In 47 BCE, Julius Caesar was trapped in Alexandria, outnumbered and cut off. Antipater marched troops to his rescue. Caesar survived, and he paid the way Rome paid. He made Antipater procurator of Judea and granted him Roman citizenship, a status that passed automatically to his sons. Notice what Antipater actually traded. Not gold, not land. He traded position. He understood that the real currency of the ancient world was access. the ability to stand on the right side of the most powerful force in the room when it mattered most. Herod was in his mid-20s. He absorbed the method completely. He would need it sooner than he knew. In 43 BCE, his father was poisoned at a banquet by a political rival. Herod inherited a name, a citizenship, and a method. Nothing else. And the world around him was coming apart. Rome in civil war after the fall of Caesar, the Parthian Empire pressing from the east, and in Jerusalem, the old royal family tearing itself to pieces over the succession. In the middle of all that noise, Herod saw something most people missed: a vacuum. In 40 BCE, the Parthians invaded. Judea fell into open civil war. Herod himself escaped Jerusalem by night with his family, fought his way through the desert, and then did the opposite of what a hunted man is supposed to do. He didn't run to a fortress. He ran toward the center of power. He sailed to Rome, and he arrived there with no army, no treasury, no crown. He owned at that moment almost nothing, except his father's reputation and his own ability to make a case. It was enough. In the winter of 40 BCE, Mark Antony and Octavian, two rivals who agreed on almost nothing, agreed on Herod. The Roman Senate voted, and at the end of the session, Antony and Octavian walked Herod out of the Senate house between them. A king created not by birth, not by conquest, but by ballot, in a foreign capital. In the ancient world, that was a rarity bordering on the unheard of. A penniless refugee had walked into Rome and walked out a king. It remains one of the highest returns on a single negotiation ever recorded. But he had a title, not a kingdom. It took 3 years of fighting to take physical control of the land he ruled on paper. And in 37 BCE, at roughly 36 years old, Herod entered Jerusalem as king. What he found was a disaster. Decades of civil war had wrecked the farmland of the Jordan Valley. Trade routes were broken. The temple was deteriorating. The treasury had been drained by war, tribute, and rival claimants. In modern language, he had inherited a sovereign balance sheet deep in the red, with hostile neighbors and a population that did not consider him legitimate. Now, here is where most rulers in history make the same move. They squeeze. They raise taxes on a broken population, extract what they can, and hope to outrun the resentment. Herod looked at the map instead. Judea sat at the intersection of 3 continents, the land bridge between Rome and the Persian East, between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea caravan routes. Everything moving between those worlds had to pass through or near his territory. The kingdom wasn't poor, it was unbuilt. And in the valley near Jericho, there grew a plant that existed nowhere else on the planet. Keep that plant in your mind. It becomes important in about 3 minutes. What Herod did was not an isolated project. It was 3 simultaneous moves, each one feeding the next. The first move required him to do something engineers said was impossible: build a harbor where nature had refused to put one. Caesarea, 22 BCE, a straight storm-beaten coastline with no bay, no cove, no natural shelter of any kind, the kind of shore that sailors had avoided for 1,000 years. Herod stood on it and saw a toll booth. Here's the simplest way to understand the move. If every truck in a region has to use one road, the person who owns that road doesn't need to sell anything. He charges for passage forever. In the 1st century BCE, the trucks were trade ships running between Rome and the east, and every one of them had to dock somewhere. Alexandria, Tyre, the ports of Greece. So Herod built his own, from nothing. The actual mechanism, documented by Josephus and confirmed by modern marine archaeology, still astonishes engineers. His builders imported pozzolana, volcanic sand, from the Bay of Naples, 1,900 kilometers away, ship after ship after ship. Mixed with lime, it produced hydraulic concrete, a material that hardens underwater. They sank wooden forms into the open sea and poured breakwaters the size of small islands directly onto the seabed. No natural protection. No precedent at this scale. 12 years later, the result was Caesarea Maritima, named for his patron, Caesar Augustus, a deep-water harbor that Josephus compared to Piraeus, the famous port of Athens. Around it, a complete Roman city, theater, aqueduct, an underground sewer system flushed by the tide, and a palace on the waterfront. Now watch what this machine actually produced. Every ship that docked paid harbor fees. Every crate of cargo moving between the Mediterranean and the East paid customs. Caesarea became the commercial gateway of the entire Eastern Mediterranean, and every coin of that flow passed through Herod's administration. Not once, continuously. A port doesn't sell a product. A port taxes movement, and movement never stops. But a port, however powerful, is one stream. Herod built 3. In the valley along the western shore of the Dead Sea, around Jericho and En-Gedi, grew the plant I asked you to remember, the most valuable secret in the ancient world, the Judean balsam. The resin tapped from its bark was prized across every civilization in the known world. Perfume, medicine, incense, ritual. Pliny the Elder, writing in the 1st century, recorded that balsam sold for twice its weight in silver. Historians estimate a single small flask could cost more than a Roman soldier earned in a month, and it grew nowhere else on earth. Herod controlled every grove. The cultivation technique was a guarded royal secret, what we would today call sovereign intellectual property. The groves sat under direct royal supervision. The product moved through his networks, at prices he set. This wasn't farming. It was a monopoly over a substance the ancient world refused to live without, and could not produce without him. The 3rd stream was stranger still, the Dead Sea itself. The bitumen, natural asphalt, that surfaced along its shores was the ancient world's only industrial-scale waterproofing. It sealed ships' hulls. It coated baskets and cisterns. And according to the Greek historian Diodorus, it fed one of antiquity's most reliable recurring markets, Egyptian embalming. Herod's kingdom sat on the only major source, 3 monopolies, 1 gate. And the records add a detail worth noting. The construction was not funded by squeezing the population. During the famine of 25 BCE, Josephus records that Herod stripped the gold and silver from his own palace to buy Egyptian grain for the people. He cut taxes by 1/3 in 20 BCE, and by 1/4 again, 6 years later. Perhaps not out of charity, but out of calculation. A starving population is a liability. A loyal one is infrastructure. By the middle of his reign, by some accounts, only Augustus himself commanded greater wealth in the Roman world. The port, the groves, the asphalt. A system this profitable doesn't go unnoticed. Before I show you what this means for your money in 2026, you need to meet the person who almost took it all away from him. She understood that machine better than anyone alive. Her name was Cleopatra, and she didn't want part of his kingdom. She wanted the source of the money. Cleopatra VII was rebuilding Egypt's economic power through her alliance with Mark Antony, Herod's own patron, and she understood exactly what Herod understood. Real sovereign wealth isn't gold in a vault. It's control of productive assets. Around 34 BCE, she persuaded Antony to sign an order. The balsam and date palm plantations of Jericho and En-Gedi, the most productive assets in the region, were taken from Herod and handed to Egypt. Just like that, the groves no longer belonged to him. But Cleopatra didn't want to manage plantations in Judea. She wanted the income. So she offered Herod a deal. And what happened next is one of the most extraordinary entries in ancient financial records. Herod became a tenant on his own land. To keep operating the groves he himself had built, the king, the builder of the greatest harbor in the Mediterranean, paid Cleopatra 200 talents a year in rent. He grew the balsam, he ran the harvest, and every year he sent a share of the profits to Alexandria for the privilege of working land that had been his. Then she came to collect in person. She toured the plantations. She ordered living cuttings taken to replicate the balsam in Egypt and break the monopoly at its root. Josephus records that Herod hosted her with full royal honors and privately weighed having her killed before she left his territory. His advisors talked him out of it. Antony, they said, would burn the kingdom in response. So Herod did the most underrated thing in finance. He waited. Today, a container terminal on the American coast. A ship a quarter of a mile long waits in the queue, carrying 40,000 tons of cargo, and every single item aboard will pay someone for the right to pass through a gate. Herod's blueprint, still running, 20 centuries later. But the blueprint only survived because of what he did in the worst year of his life. In 31 BCE, at Actium, Octavian, Julius Caesar's heir, destroyed Mark Antony and Cleopatra in a single naval battle. Within a year, both were dead, and that left Herod in the most dangerous position of his life. Because everything he had, his crown, his kingdom, his legitimacy, had come from Antony. He had spent a decade as the loyal ally of the man Octavian had just destroyed. In Roman logic, that made him an enemy. Kings had been executed for less. A man in that position runs, hides, or begs through intermediaries. Herod sailed straight to Rhodes to face the winner in person. Josephus records that he took the diadem off his own head, stood before Octavian as a bareheaded man, and made the most audacious pitch in ancient politics. Judge me by how loyal I was to your enemy, because that is exactly how loyal I will be to you. Octavian, soon to be Augustus, confirmed him as king. Then he went further. He returned the Jericho groves Cleopatra had taken, and added new territories and coastal cities on top. Herod walked out of that crisis with more land, more trade routes, and more revenue than he had before it began. In the end, the formula is this: own infrastructure that everyone must use, control supply of what cannot be substituted, and survive the transitions of power, because assets outlast alliances. Now look around 2026, because the same mechanism that filled Herod's treasury is at work right now in the systems your money moves through. Every time you tap a card, a payment network takes a fraction of the transaction, and analysts estimate American merchants alone pay over $100 billion a year in such fees. That is Caesarea, a gate that taxes movement continuously. A patented drug that only one company may manufacture at prices it sets under state protection? That is the Balsam Grove, exclusivity enforced not by walls around a plantation, but by law. And in 2021, the world got a live demonstration of what a gate is worth. One container ship ran aground in the Suez Canal and blocked it completely. For 6 days, no ship could pass. Analysts estimated the cost, around $9 to $10 billion in trade stuck per day. One blocked passage was enough to choke the cargo of the entire planet. That is the power of a gate. And Herod built his 2,000 years earlier. Economists who study wealth keep finding the same pattern. Money from owning grows very differently than money from working. And the reason is simple. A salary has a ceiling. It depends on your hours, and when you stop, it stops. An asset doesn't. Herod's port charged every ship, day and night, whether he was awake or asleep, and yesterday's income funded tomorrow's growth. Labor adds, ownership multiplies. 2,000 years of records confirm it. Once you see that, the financial system stops being confusing, and wealth building actually starts. The story adds an important warning. After Herod died, Rome took his assets one by one. The port, the bitumen trade, and the balsam, the most protected monopoly of the ancient world, had the strangest end. Its cultivation secret belonged to so few people that, when war shattered the civilization around it, the knowledge died too. Centuries later, the Judean balsam vanished from the earth, extinct, its secret gone with it. But in his lifetime, Herod's plans worked. Every crisis made him stronger. And still, inside the palace, there was one thing he couldn't control, and no money could protect. What it cost him fills the most painful pages Josephus ever wrote. Her name is Mariamne. She is almost 30, standing before a tribunal in her husband's palace, accused of betraying him. She is a Hasmonean princess, blood of the dynasty Herod replaced. He married her in 37 BCE, the same year he took Jerusalem. On paper, a political alliance. But something happened that Herod had not planned. He fell completely in love with her. Josephus describes something closer to obsession than affection, and a man who loved that way lived in terror of losing what he loved. So Herod did with her what he did with everything of value. Before every journey that might kill him, every campaign, every dangerous summit, he left a sealed order. If I do not return, she must not remain in the world without me. He treated his wife the way he treated the balsam groves, an exclusive asset, a monopoly no one else could ever hold. Twice the order leaked. The first time Mariamne found out, and never forgave him. The second was worse. He left the order before sailing to Rhodes. He returned in triumph. She greeted him knowing he had planned her death. After that, the marriage turned to silence. Salome, Herod's sister, had never trusted the Hasmonean princess. She fed her brother's fear little by little, whispers of infidelity, of the personal guard standing too close. Herod convened the tribunal. The tribunal convicted her. He signed the order, then tried to reverse it. He sent messengers. He changed his mind, while Salome kept pressing. In 29 BCE, Mariamne was executed. What followed is documented with cold precision. Herod called her name through the corridors. He ordered servants to summon her, as if she were alive. He threw banquets. He built. He traveled. None of it worked. The man who owned one of the largest fortunes in the Roman world could not buy back the one thing his own signature had destroyed. In the years that followed, he executed 3 of his own sons. A saying attributed to Augustus summed up how the world saw it. It is safer to be Herod's pig than to be Herod's son. Herod's financial legacy would survive for centuries. So would this one. What does all of this say about money, 2,000 years later? Strip away the crowns and the silver, and the record leaves 4 patterns. The first, Herod survived Cleopatra because his income didn't come from a single source. When his best asset was taken, the others kept operating. In financial history, this pattern repeats. Whoever depends on a single source of income is always one outside decision away from ruin. That is where wealth building begins or ends. The second, in crisis after crisis, across the centuries, those who owned productive assets, a skill others must hire, a stake in something that generates income, recovered faster than those holding only idle cash, which inflation quietly erodes. That is what investing means at its root, not chasing prices, but occupying a place where value passes through. The third, Herod moved while the smoke of battle was still on the water, before the new order had settled. The records show this pattern in every generation. The most valuable positions were taken during crises, not after them, when no one else was looking. And of all assets, knowledge of how the financial system works is the only one no empire, creditor, or rival can confiscate. The fourth, the balsam went extinct because its secret lived in too few heads. And the records of every century point to the same thing. The wealth that survives collapse is the wealth that is documented, where the accounts are, what the plan is, who needs to know. None of the 4 require luck, inheritance, or a Roman Senate. Herod started with a debt and a name people spat at. What he had was position, multiple sources, and patience. Rome, on the other hand, learned the wrong lesson from him. It applied the toll booth logic to money itself, thinning the silver in its own coins, decade after decade until the economy cracked. There remains the mountain from the beginning. It's called Herodium, and Herod built it. Near the end of his life, he ordered thousands of workers to carry earth up the slope, load by load, until they had raised an artificial mountain where none existed, visible from Jerusalem, 15 kilometers away. At its top, a fortress. Inside it, a 7-story palace with baths, gardens, and a private theater. It was the only project he ever named after himself. And it was there that he chose to be buried, in a mausoleum on the hillside, facing the desert. In 2007, after 35 years of searching, archaeologists found that mausoleum. The royal sarcophagus was in pieces, smashed with hammers, scattered down the slope. Not by time, by human hands, decades after his death, when the people he had ruled rose against Rome. A verdict delivered 70 years after the burial. The bones were never found, and the rest followed the same path. The port silted up. The monopoly went extinct. The dynasty was dissolved by Rome within a generation. Even the gold vanished, but the mountain still stands. 20 centuries of empires, crusades, and wars have rolled past it, and it is still the first thing you see on the road south of Jerusalem. Wealth that has to be defended disappears. Wealth built into the way the world moves outlives even those who hated its owner. If this kind of buried financial history is what brought you here, that is exactly what this channel digs up. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. So what defines a legacy? What you leave behind or how you're remembered? Leave it in the comments.